UA, Q.
Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Working Class Music. I'm one of your hosts, Jason.
And I'm Tia.
And we have some special guests with us.
I'm James. I'm a product designer at UA, and I get to also do some janitorial services around here. So sorry if it's a bit of a mess. I'm slacking today.
I'm Emily. I'm from Get Offset, and I'm just so proud to be here.
We are proud to have her because we love her so much.
Oh, I love you guys. Stop it.
Yeah, we're going to conclude our UA trilogy with these guys, and we decided that, hey, this is going to be cool. They have the Ruby here, and that's the one that we have yet to check out.
Yeah,
and we're
excited.
we're both super excited about this. I'm very curious because all the other pedals have been like top tier. They've been god tier.
Dude, they've knocked it out of the park every single time.
And since they sound amazing, I wanted to talk to James and get his take since he designed them and like, what are some of the goals they were shooting for with these?
Oh, that's a big question. Luckily, I get to work with a fellow named Tom Morganson who spent a lot of time at TC. So, you know, between him figuring out like, well, what do we think is a good usable set of knobs and not too much stuff, and then me coming from the product design of like sounds, how things work, and getting all this stuff modeled, I think we come to a place where we're both guitar players, and if something's too complicated, then it's kind of a no-go. The problem with some of this stuff, and I will see Ruby has that problem, is sometimes things are so closely modeled to the original. If you've never played the original, it doesn't make any sense. So there's things about the Ruby that are completely backwards from the Dream.
Okay.
And the way you set the tone controls, the way the sounds work, it makes zero sense. And I'm being honest with you, because it's like saying, you know, if you have a nice Fender amp, so you almost can't go wrong. You can put it quiet and put the treble bass somewhere, and it usually works.
Yeah.
The AC30s can sound like kind of garbage, but it's that garbage when you scale it back or roll your volume down that makes that chime.
Yeah.
And the problem with the chime is as chime gets distorted, it gets really ugly sounding.
Yeah.
So the real amps have that ugliness. So if you take that away, it doesn't sound the same at the lower settings. So we can get into some trouble, and I can show you the ugly that becomes the beautiful in the pedal, I think, which is the same as the amp. I have, one of the main ones I use for this is that 63, early 64 box, and I have these crazy pieces of tape on it. So when I found a good sound I liked, I would always mark everything.
Nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because, yeah, you just have to. I have so much tape everywhere and all these little scratches. And also, every day the amp sounded different. Because if it wasn't blowing up or the power, because we were relying on the power tubes to get the distortion. Which is one of those things where if it's different to say like a distortion pedal can sound the same every day, but like with a tube amp, and when the amp's loud, the power tubes are distorting. If the wall voltage is low or high, that amp can sound awesome or trashy. But we don't have to worry about that anymore because we literally kind of modeled it on its best day and tried to keep it that way. And I was just on kind of death watch all day when I had the real amp on working on it. Because you can start to smell it in the room when it was going to go.
Oh, yeah.
So
You're saying this pedal does not have that smell.
it gets a little warm.
It doesn't have
but
that
I want
feature.
the
But you want the
Yeah.
smell. Well, Dad and I used to like the Dream when I had a pre-production one. If I dropped it, it'd go pow. The spring tank would actually do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had
I
a.
should have kept that feature.
I know, right? We were talking about it.
Yeah.
They go crash. And then we thought how many people would like, mine's broken, drop it.
Right.
Drop it on purpose too, and not too.
Flames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can show you some really neat stuff about Ruby. So who wants to play? Are we doing both of you guys or?
Yeah.
Actually, because I heard you playing earlier, I want to hear you play. Like I will even not play in this. I just want to hear because you were jamming earlier, and I was just like,
You know about you, right? Because
Oh, he's talking about James.
yeah.
oh, I retired like 5 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm done. No. Okay, sure. Whatever you guys want. Here.
Pick a preference.
Actually, believe it or not, I don't know if everyone can see that. There's a whole bunch of picks on here,
Yeah.
and yeah, that's been my station. So you'll see everything from nylon jazz picks to Tortex, Herco styles. Because I think depending on your playing preference, I think the pick has a lot to do with it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
One of the sounds about the Ruby is everyone talks about the chime factor. And a lot of the players who had that chime all use these vintage Herco picks. So I'm gonna ask you to please hand me maybe that gray one right there on the far right. Pretty basic Herco, but it has a scratchy side to it. I'll show you the edge trick.
Okay.
Oh,
There'll be the extra chime. So let's start at the Brilliant channel. Quickly, there's two versions of the AC30. One was non-top boost, which is the first one. They didn't call it non because it just was what it was. And they were really dark sounding. And around 63, 64, you start seeing ones that had this extra gain stage and a treble and bass control. So we're gonna start at that one, which is the one everybody wants to see if it does the chime. So that's the switch over here in the brill top part. There's a boost. We're gonna just turn that boost off. In fact, we'll copy the settings over there so you can try it too. So I turn that off, brill. Here's the weird part. The treble and bass do not make any sense. If you put the treble and bass all the way up like this, it sounds terrible. The cut all the way up, wouldn't you think that'd be lots of bass, lots of treble, and lots of presence?
Yeah.
It's garbage. Yeah. No, here's the thing. The cut works the other way. So if I turn the cut the other direction, it actually adds the presence back.
Okay.
So now you have to go put it at noon. So now you got some presence back. I should have tuned the guitar, but we're gonna go with it. I don't care. We're going crazy here. The bass is the weirder one. If it's all the way up, it's actually no bass and has a really sort of honky mid thing. So if I start turning it down, it's like an EQ. It starts doing a smile curve, so it's all bass and all treble. It'll start scooping itself out. Again, makes no sense. So watch this.
Oh, wow.
You hear all the bass come up and the treble comes. So now you've got. So now let's get to the treble. Same thing. That here all the way up, dead. Start pulling it back to, let's put it like at 9. In fact, we'll put the bass at 9 too. So that gives us a little bit of mid-range and even bass. Now you've got. That is super bright and chimey. If you look at the settings, you're like, no. No, not at all. So now here's the next trick. Put in the amp like right around 10 o'clock. And that is your basic like U2 sound. So if I just play a chord with, again, with the actual proper part of the pick, you're gonna have this kind of sound. Now the chime is there. It's gonna be even more present in a second. If I use the other side of the pig, you use the scrapey part. So if you listen to any U2 record, he never uses this side, the dark side. It's always the scrape, but you have to have an amp that has those frequencies in it, or else it just sounds like, again, garbage again.
Yeah, it's like cooking with the wrong ingredients.
Right, yeah. If you turn on some delay and reverb, and I play this side of it, you're gonna have.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
You're already treading into that beautiful ambient, warm, spacious thing, which no other amp does that. You cannot get a Fender amp or a Marshall to have that chime. But the amp itself, because they added that tube and that tone stack, they overdid the treble. So it's the weirdest tone stack ever. Because again, we look at the settings, you look where everything is. I can make it even brighter by pulling the cut all the way back. And I'll use the blue speaker in the middle. It'll be even more chimey. And you can actually hear your fingers going there. So that is one of the secrets. So here's another weird one. If I turn the amp all the way up, it's gonna explode. In fact, here, let's kill the reverb and delay for a second. And if I play something like that, you know, it starts to,
I want
yeah. If I pull this down, I'll hit it really hard. You'll actually hear the amp kind of do this. Now the weird thing with this, I can still get the clean sound. If I just pull my volume down, I'll just put some reverb on.
Bit like an input.
Well, it's just hitting the amp harder, but the amps, those AC30s have so much compression and a recovery time. It's like the whole tube power amp is like a giant power amp compressor. So when you hit it really hard, it just dies and folds in on itself. When you play lighter, it's signal dependent, and the tubes kind of, they lighten up, they come back. There are a lot of products that do signal modeling, which means like if you hear somebody's vocal or drum sound, you can put the EQ in to make it work, but that doesn't capture dynamics, compression, release, attack, decays.
Right.
If you do the actual circuit, when I hit it hard, it crumbles. When I play lighter, it recovers and the EQ shifts. So I can still get that. And you just do it with your hand and your volume. So now that's half the pedal. Hopefully I haven't put everyone to sleep yet.
No.
Oh,
All right.
It's been like 4 minutes, and you sold me on this.
Oh.
I want one yesterday.
I mean, the Velcro comes off super easy. I'm going to the airport. That's on Velcro. That's all I'm saying.
We'll help Pat.
Okay.
we'll learn
Okay.
that.
So here's the other fun one. I think of AC30s as either that edge, Tom Petty, jangly Radiohead thing, or the really open mid-range singing Brian May thing.
Yeah.
Which is
I
every
think of Brian May.
Okay, so
Radiohead.
see, I'm down the middle on both because I can listen to OK Computer all day long, or Pablo Honey, you pick. So let's do a Brian May sound, which again makes no sense. We go to the normal channel. Now remember the whole thing about it. There were super dark amps, and here's what happens: the bass and treble do not work because the original amp didn't have that circuit. So these aren't going to help you at all. They don't function. There's nothing there. The only thing that there is the cut. That's all you get. It's on the real amp. So my favorite setting here is to put the amp on 10, take the cut all the way the other direction. So that's as bright as it's going to get. Oh, actually change picks. Can you pick me out that left guy?
This guy?
Yeah. I really should have like a sixpence because that's what Brian May uses. So if you listen to this now, it's kind of cool, but not.
I mean, I love it. What do you...
It's furry. It's got a big microphone. But that's not the Queen sound. He used a little mid-range treble booster, essentially hot wiring the amp to do what the later AC30s did, except he used a transistor fuzz to do it. And everyone was trying to get the treble up out of the amps. So we put the circuit in here. So now on the boost, if I just turn this up from a little bit, there's a little off written down there. You immediately hear that fuzz come on. Now you hear this vowel of wah. And then you turn it all the way on 10. See, this is fun with settings. Just put everything on 10. And then if I play this, just an A chord, you're pretty much in the Brian May thing. Now we double down on the mid-range. Use the silver speaker, one up, and that's got even more mid-range. So now when you play, and you're done.
Oh my God.
So now you're all set up to rock out. Come on.
I don't even know what to do.
Just play a chord. You just play a chord, put your hand. So technically, you should have a copy of what she's got now.
Go ahead.
Oh, I mean.
So now it's a challenge. Now, what's crazy about that sound is you think of Queen, and you think how big those records sound, how this is big and powerful, and then you realize this is a small, narrow tone. But what it does is you own the whole mid-range and upper mids, so when you hear a kick drum and a bass, they're not in your way.
Yes. That's a good point.
Yeah, so you sound bigger, and like you're like right here on somebody's track. You cannot hide from this. So it's not cutting in a way that's harsh and trebly, but it's that focused mid-range that when you play a note, you just hear it singing, and it sort of blooms upwards like wah, instead of going which is a very technical term. You see why I got my job at UA? Very specific, very technical. Does it chug kind of thing.
Oh, well, I'll find out.
That's right.
It chugs.
That top boost is a whole different circuit, different tone stack than this other one. So really, I always see this pedal as being the two personalities. But the only problem with this is there's no other amp that does this. So the Dream 65 doesn't do this, but this can't do anything the Dream does. And the Tweed is its own raw thing in the middle of all of this.
Okay, let's get him to try this.
If you can add in some room for her, I'll show you how to do it. Put it in the alt mode, go in the middle switch up, and grab that bass control and start pulling it up while she's playing, and you'll start to sound bigger from the room.
I'm like falling in love with these pedals all over again.
Yeah.
Like I kind of wish we had you for the Dream and the Woodrow.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has to figure out something that works for them. It never fails. That some days it's like, oh, this sucks.
That's the thing with like vintage gear. And we had a friend bring over his vintage amp so we can compare the Dream and the Woodrow, and he was like, it depends. Like he's like, I'm saying yes, but the amps may say something else.
It may say something else, and I'll tell you the term. It's called unit-to-unit variation. And I listen to multiples of each vintage amp and speaker and mic and everything, and you can't possibly get them to match 100%. And that's why I have friends who still try to buy old Marshalls because they're still looking for the one that sounds good.
Yeah.
This goes for every famous Marshall user.
I will say, as a person who's owned at one point, well, through history, 5 different AC30s and currently a matchless, this sounds really close to the really good ones.
Good.
I just thought I didn't like AC30s.
That's what I thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I came close to buying one once because there was one that I actually really, really enjoyed, and the rest did not do it for me.
I thought they sounded brittle.
Yeah.
They are. Some of them do sound brittle, or sometimes the speakers are crappy in them. So sorry.
No, this like, oh my god, this is so consistent.
Yeah, that's what I want. That's all I want in my life.
No, and I'll tell you, even with these, I went through different sets of even just the silver speakers. Like, I had 2 of them that came in one of the amps that just sounded horrible. And I had another set, like, those sound amazing. So the problem with this stuff is just because you find a vintage amp doesn't mean it sounds good or is the one. So there's a whole bunch of months and years involved with making sure, like, is that the right blue, silver, greenback? Is it broken in? Does it work with the amp? Because you play a bad one of these amps, you're like, oh, I don't like those amps.
Yeah. And then you get a good one, and you're like forever chasing that.
Yeah, then you're like trying to buy it off your friend.
Is that what
Sorry,
it's supposed
my friends.
to sound like?
Yeah, because they're made for somebody else's playing style, or maybe a guitar that's brighter, darker, has more output. So I never feel bad when somebody goes, yeah, that pedal wasn't for me. It's like, well, if the pedal wasn't for you, you maybe don't even like the amp either, or maybe you're not ready for it, because I don't think we all come out of the womb thinking, oh, I totally get what John Coltrane's doing. It's all a learning process, and even though I feel like I've done all this so many times over, I still wake up and go, oh, that's the trick. And you got to call friends, you got to go play gear, you got to go looking for stuff. And
you got to start a demo channel.
Oh, dang, see?
Secret.
I just appreciate the fact that you guys were able to kind of get running on the pedals and maybe find something you like or don't like, which is fine too.
I don't think any of us dislike any of these.
Yeah, no.
Like,
You'll find something eventually.
No.
It's like good, better, best.
Yeah.
The whole thought was with talking to Tor, if you can't just take your pedal board and plug this thing right in at the end of it and just replace the amp, then we didn't do the right thing.
I like that thought.
If you're a deluxe or a super or a twin reverb person and you can't figure out the Dream pedal and have it sound somewhat okay after your pedal board, then we're talking to the wrong person, because I don't want to replace somebody else's crazy rack with all these. There's so many great products that do digital modeling and effects. That's a different person. Well, I'm trying to talk to somebody who, like, maybe they use a small pedal board, they do fly dates, they just need 1 or 2 great, authentic 100%. I need the AC30 that sounds like the U2 sound or the Queen sound, and that's all it's got to do. And that means using the entire processor in there to do that one simple thing.
I think you guys nailed it.
Yeah. I mean, no, you knocked it out of the park. Like, oh my god.
Thank you. I'll give you my boss's email and you guys can write him.
Yeah.
Please do that.
And make sure,
I think this is going to definitely get the Working Class Music Platinum.
Woo! Oh man.
Radiohead.
All right.
Stamp of approval.
Woo.
What's super impressive with this, because hearing what it's supposed to sound like and hearing how close all of these are, like, it's truly indistinguishable. yeah, it feels like the amp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think you guys nailed it on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's probably what took the longest amount of time was when you hit the string, did it collapse or did it bounce back and do your thing? So,
Get that response.
yeah, because otherwise, I feel fun, honestly.
No.
Well, thank you guys, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
My pleasure. And
Dude, yeah, thank you for all the knowledge.
No,
Seriously, this was like eye-opening, and I like how you're just like, looks like it would sound bad. Sounds great.
it sounds great. If I missed my flight, it was worth it. It's okay.
Thanks again, James.
My pleasure.
You are awesome, and this has been such a wonderful experience. I'm going to let Emily take the floor so she can
right.
plug Get Offset.
Hi, I'm Emily from Get Offset. It's great seeing you. Great hanging out. Thank you all again. Thanks to Sweetwater and everyone else here for hosting us all at GearFest. It's been a dream.
It's nice.
Check out everyone's, especially Working Class Music's Sweetwater affiliate link, because it's a great way to support their channel without paying any extra money. A little bit goes back to them, costs you nothing extra to do something that, let's be honest with ourselves and each other, you're going to do anyway. So, yeah, I guess normally I just say thanks for watching, thanks for understanding.
Let's do that. Thanks.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for understanding.
Adios.
Laters.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you.
Everybody super